This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/Karsten. Hey everyone, make sure you're drinking enough water out there. Welcome back to what I watched this month, June edition. I started the month by watching Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. As much as I wanted to love this, as it is directed by Akiva Schaffer and stars two comedians whose work I've previously really loved, unfortunately this wasn't really my thing. I do think it gets away with the multiverse thing way more than something like Space Jam does. I definitely don't mind the self-awareness going on, and the animation does look pretty nice. But it just wasn't ever that interesting from a story perspective, nor was it my sense of humor. Not a bad movie, just not my thing. Then I watched Gun Maverick twice. Yeah, there was a point this month where I was only thinking about and watching this movie, and it's the kind of movie that really deserves that. This film exceeded my expectations. I had a blast. I haven't had this much fun with a studio blockbuster in a long time. The sound and cinematography alone were just mind-blowing. Tom Cruise is one of the last true movie stars, and I love that this is a movie that is kind of about Tom Cruise that doesn't lose sight of being just plain fun at the same time. Miles Teller, it's a damn shame you're apparently hell to work with because you're damn good at what you do. This just scratched all the right itches for me. Above everything else, it was just an insanely moving experience. It is as gripping and as fun as it is because you care, because the actors care. This is living proof that attention to detail and a passion for the material can be felt through the screen and will most of the time make for a better movie. I'm so glad this thing exists. Then I watched Crimes of the Future. I've been slowly getting more into Cronenberg, and my general feelings towards a lot of his work is that it is very hard to make sense of what they are about. And I'm glad I watched this near the beginning of the month because it's really given me time to piece this one together, and I've come to the conclusion that I still don't really know what it's saying as a whole. I do really like the themes that it's tackling, our bodies being more capable of certain things than we realize, whether that's a good or a bad thing, how we choose to change and use our bodies, surgery being the new sex. All of that with this rich, dark, and very silly world that he builds makes for a truly one-of-a-kind experience that kept me intrigued the entire way through. If nothing else, it's a beautifully icky movie that you can't look away from. I could have sat there for hours. And I really liked it for that reason. I like watching this movie. I was just a little lost as far as what the whole point was when the credits rolled. Then I watched the Bo Burnham Inside outtakes. Not much to say here besides that this was a fascinating look into a thing I always wanted to see the BTS for, so I feel pretty satisfied. The Chicken is a phenomenal song that should have been in the main special. This man is so talented. And I watched Empire Records. As a fan of things like Josie and the Pussycats, this felt like it was of the same font, and so it was hard for it not to win me over. What I didn't expect was the fact that it was a day-in-the-life hangout movie, and it's a good one. It's one of those where if you're not sold on its characters, you're never really gonna come around to it, so I don't blame you if you're not a fan of this. But these characters are so fun to watch. I could have watched these fools for hours. It was a really fun and carefree world that never got old for me. And I rewatched Nashville. My god, is this good on a rewatch. It's not surprising that this was a little overwhelming at first, but knowing who to keep track of the second time around and when to keep track of them made this a lot more satisfying and even more rich with detail than I first realized. The ending somehow hit even harder when you know it's coming. I truly do not know a more American film. I can't believe for the second summer in a row I forgot to watch this on 4th of July. Then I watched Good Morning. This was my first Ozu film. I was told to start here, and I will be completely honest, I was not blown away in the ways I thought I'd be. It is undeniably very cute and quietly very sad. The fart jokes were unexpected, not gonna lie, but they were definitely funny. But I felt a little distant from what he was trying to do here, but bear with me for just a second. Then I watched Fire Island. I have really so few things to say about this one. I thought it was really cute and charming. I think Bowen Yang is an absolute star. This really proves how well he works on a larger scale than SNL when you give him the right stuff to work with. And more than anything, it is just nice to see a good rom-com these days. I can see this being an instant favorite for a lot of people, and for that reason, I gotta give it a thumbs up. Then I watched Jurassic World Dominion. You guys already know how I feel about this. I thought it was one of the most boring films I've seen in a really long time. I don't want to waste any more time talking about it. Let's move on. Then I watched Ozu's Late Spring, and now this was, it was one of the most important films I've ever seen. I've been describing it as a milestone film to my friends, one like Synecdoche, New York, or First Reformed, films that resonated with me so deeply that they kind of reshaped my mind in a way where I can't look at anything else the same. Like, now I get it. Ozu's filmmaking does such a great job at drawing you in when you give yourself up to it. You feel like you're a part of this relationship between the father and daughter because you're in the conversation most of the time. He isn't afraid to get really intimate with these relationships. But all technical stuff aside, it was just a very sweet and simple story about loneliness and how difficult it is to do the right thing, especially for a loved one. And I don't know. There's a lot more I can and need to say about this. I like what I said on my Letterboxd review way more than what I said here, so just go read that instead. But please do yourself a favor and watch Late Spring. It might just make you sob. I feel like I need to go revisit Good Morning now. And I rewatched Smiley Face. Now what's funny about this is that this is also in my top 10, right next to Late Spring. And it could not be more on the opposite side of the spectrum from that movie. If you ever wanted to get to know what my taste is, just watch those two films. They're both masterpieces in their own ways, and that's all I have to say for now. And I watched Scanners. I thought this was fine. I wish it had more body horror, and I wish the lead wasn't such a plank of wood. I mean, come on, man, what were you thinking? He does not sell a single thing that happens in this movie, and Cronenberg only ever feels like it works when his actors fully believe the absurdity of his scripts. This was a great concept, and unfortunately that aspect really brings it down more than it should. It's just no coincidence that the scene you probably know from this film is the one where the lead has nothing to do with it. Then I watched Double Indemnity. When trying to write about this one, I found myself in the same predicament I was in when I tried to write about The Apartment. Billy Wilder makes movies that are just so airtight in the script and are so perfect that you don't really know what to say, despite there being so much to say. I guess what I will say about this one is that the dialogue really stood out to me. It felt like every line topped the next one. I love when two characters having a conversation can sound almost musical. That's what this felt like, and with such an absurd plot, it's hard not to instantly fall in love. I'm not kidding when I say every aspect about this movie is so perfect that I genuinely don't know what to say about it. Then I watched Free Solo for the third time. I recently joined a climbing gym, so I just wanted to rewatch this because it's been on the mind, and now knowing specifically how incredibly hard climbing is, this man is insane. The documentary is a little cheesy and rough around the edges. It's certainly not the best thing in the world, but they did what they came to do and made something I'm probably going to keep watching throughout my life. I really like this movie. Then I watched Lightyear, and it was fine. Did it need to happen? Of course not. Is this what I've said about most Pixar films since 2010? Yeah. Then I watched Uptown Girls. I went into this with low expectations, and up until the halfway point, those expectations were kind of met. I mean, aside from a really good Brittany Murphy performance, I really did not see this as anything that remarkable. But then it takes a turn, and it starts taking the story very seriously. And fellas, I was hooked. I got really emotional really fast. And when they've already kind of set you up with the likable characters, you're kind of trapped in a corner and gotta go, well, they got me. I fell for all the early 2000s cheese they threw at me here, and they deserve it because damn it, it's a well-made movie. Then I watched the Muppets movie. I have people out here that want to kill me for giving this less than 5 stars, and to them I just want to say, I'm so sorry. I love the Muppets. Those are my fucking boys. One of these movies was apparently the first movie I ever watched in a movie theater. I do not remember that at all, but they hold a special place in my heart for that reason alone. But this was just perfectly fine to me. It's hilarious, yes, the cameos are so perfect, the musical numbers, classics, but the story just kind of got the job done for me and didn't do much else. I will not critique this any more than I already have because I refuse to shit on the Muppets. Let's just leave it there. Then I rewatched Red Rocket with commentary from Sean Baker, Simon Rex, and the DP Drew Daniels. Really interesting to hear about how this was made and that so much of the cinematography was very spontaneous. It seemed like it was made with a bunch of little miracles. I love this movie, and hearing about all the visual Easter eggs throughout made me love it even more. If you haven't checked out the commentary, I highly recommend you do. And I watched some of Martin Scorsese's shorts like Italian American, The Big Shave, and It's Not Just You, Murray. These, if anything, confirm that Marty knows comedy better than most comedic filmmakers. The man's got a good sense of humor. Then I watched Sexy Beast. It's been a while since I've seen Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin, yet I immediately recognized and was sucked back into his visually unique style of filmmaking with this. I don't know if I've ever seen a more British film. There is nothing like watching Ben Kingsley scream the most vulgar thing you've ever heard in a thick British accent that is barely comprehensible. I thought as a one last job kind of crime film, it hit all the right notes while still being very much its own thing. In fact, it may just be the best One Last Job movie I've seen, besides the one about the fox. It's definitely a really weird movie, probably not for everyone, but I really loved this. Then I watched Neptune Frost. Speaking of not for everyone, I am not going to say what this movie is about other than it's a musical, and I don't think I've ever seen a musical quite like this. It is one of the most unapologetically itself movies I have ever seen, to a point where sometimes it works and other times it absolutely absolutely didn't, it makes Annette look really dull. That's if that puts it into perspective for you. I'm mixed because this gets held back emotionally by the surrealism that makes it so good. The production design and music is out of this world. I mean, it really feels like it's coming from another galaxy. I just wish I connected a little bit more to the narrative going on here, but I will fully recognize that that is not really what this film is trying to do. So I can't really tell if I like this or not. I am just very blown away that Lin-Manuel Miranda was the executive producer? Then I watched Elvis. As mentioned in my video, I like this. In fact, the more I've sat with it, the more I've grown to like it even more. Baz Luhrmann can be very good when he decides to be. The music choices don't always work for me, and Tom Hanks is definitely not good, but Austin Butler and the outrageously maximalist approach the film runs with totally worked for me. You should see this movie. Then I watched The Dark Crystal in 70mm. I kind of went into this just planning to check it off the list. I knew it was a classic and just wanted to check it out, but my god, this blew my socks off. I loved this. I instantly fell in love with the characters and world. It was so full of detail, and the attention to even the tiniest of choices was so cool. I know there's been like countless documentaries made about like how this was made, but I'm so fascinated at how this was made. The story was pretty straightforward, but man, did it keep me on edge. Anytime they introduced a new creature, I wanted to jump out of my seat and just start clapping. The music was dreamy and perfect. I walked away obsessed and immediately wanted to watch it again. This is a fantastic movie. Oh my god. And then I rewatched Mad God. Not a ton to say about a rewatch. It definitely is still just as great as it was the first time. I just want you to see it while it's out. If you haven't watched it yet, get on it. And lastly, I did watch Barry Season 3. This is without a doubt the best the show has been. Things have never been duller and darker. Bill Hader, I'm concerned for your well-being. I'm trying to pick a favorite performance, but I can't seem to do it. Literally everyone did such a good job this season. Henry Winkler, Sarah Goldberg. Remember when I said this show wasn't funny anymore last month? I was completely wrong. The dry humor this season was some of the show's best. Do I even need to bring up the motorcycle chase? Oh my god. I'm not gonna spoil, but I definitely am curious of where the hell this next season is gonna go. This definitely feels like the end, but that's just good TV, and if I trust any TV show out there, it's Barry. Someone please let Bill make a horror movie. The man is a god. And hey, that's what I watched this month. But what did you watch this month? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Go check out all these films and form your own opinion. And if you're looking for something to watch next month, check out this week's sponsor, Mubi. Mubi is a curated streaming service, a place to watch beautiful, interesting, and incredible cinema. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there's always something new to discover. With Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected. It's like your own personal film festival, streaming anytime, anywhere. I love that each day on Mubi, there's a new film to discover that was hand-selected by an actual human being who knows what they're talking about when it comes to film. So I know whatever it is that I am watching that night on Mubi, it's going to be something pretty significant. You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/Karsten. That's mubi.com/Karsten for a whole month of amazing cinema for free.